Apologies for that, Gills fans. Slight connection issue there. So this will now be part 2 of the Steve Evans sacked special. I'm going to now leave you back with Reece, who is going to go over that point that he was just making before he was rudely cut off regarding players out of contracts and season ticket sales diminishing.
Yeah, because like I was saying, it's whoever's in charge next season, whatever league we're in, they're going to have a job on their hands. Because it looks like probably part of the terms of us being under the embargo for as long as we have is that we can't sign players on long-term deals. So I don't think there's a single player under contract for next season, which means that, a new manager is going to have their wits about them. But yeah, we all know, we read enough of it, that people are getting disillusioned with the football club. And I'll say it more and more, are saying that they won't be renewing season tickets next season. The crowds are low as it is. They're probably going to get lower. The budget's going to get smaller. And whoever's in charge is going to have to build an entire team on whatever resources is given. And the one thing that worries me most is that if the likely outcome does happen and we do get relegated, we're building an entire team from scratch on low resources when you're one bad season away from oblivion. And that's quite concerning, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's it, because there's no leeway there. If you have a poor season in League Two, you drop out of the Football League, and that could be catastrophic. Not to scare people, but we've seen in recent seasons, haven't we? Leighton Orient have gone down there. Halifax. If you go all the way back to 92, 93, Jack should remember just. I do.
Just about, mate. Yeah, show me age.
Yeah, me too. They've not been back to the Football League ever since, I don't think. So that's what can happen in more recent seasons. Wrexham, Leighton Orient, Chesterfield. There's plenty. Notts County are stuck in there. Yeah, there's plenty.
Yeah. Bigger clubs than us.
Yeah.
Much bigger club than we are.
Chester, Stockport in the last 15, 20 years. Stockport, people have to remember, was the first team that we played in the Championship in 2000. And they're now National League, and they dropped even lower. Darlington pretty much went out of business and at the start. Again, there's so many examples of it happening, and it's not easy. And yeah, I have to agree that I think if we do go down, I don't think we'll come straight back up, unfortunately.
No, I don't see what we're going to do to arrest this slide, to be honest, because I've seen, for instance, just a short while ago after our break on Twitter that that Scally's replied to a fan who emailed him telling him he won't be missed when he sent him an email. So that sort of attitude is not going to help things. I think, as Reece has pointed out, next season, honestly, if we go down, or when we go down potentially, God knows what the attendance is going to be. From what I've been told in the Cheltenham game, I don't know if this is actually true, to be fair, but it's coming from someone within the club, is that there was actually 2,020 bums on seats for the Cheltenham game, the league game, I think it was on the Tuesday. That's unsustainable. And if that's the case, that includes that 2020 is made up of season ticket holders that have not gone. So there's so many people I know that are not renewing, or anecdotally I've heard from other people that they're not renewing. There's people that walked out of the Ipswich game who vowed to not come back. I do genuinely fear for us, and I'm not going to. I don't want to bang this drum too much because it's not that sort of episode, to be fair. But I just don't see that changing until there's a change of ownership. To be honest, I think we're on a downward spiral. I don't see how a relegation to League Two is going to help inject any life into us. And people kind of go, well, you get relegated and start again. It's not. I think people think too sort of eagerly on a relegation to then have a promotion season, because it's not easy for clubs to come up again, and especially from League Two. A little bit easier because there's 4 teams that can come up, but I can't see us doing it. I think we'll go down again potentially, if anything else. And as you guys have said, I just, God, if we go into the conference, God knows. We could even go down again. I want to be too doom merchant, but yeah, I don't see this slide being arrested.
Yeah, because I think the thing is, Jack, that we have experienced League Two before, but if you think about sort of the last time we was in League Two, Hess and Tyler's teams, we signed Kedwell, we signed Whelpdale, we signed Lee, we signed Cody, we signed Bayo. If we go into League Two, whereas normally we're in League Two with quite a competitive budget, I think we'd be in League Two with a bottom half budget, if not bottom quarter budget. We're not going to go straight back up. It's just not going to happen. The resources aren't there anymore.
No. If you look at, and even looking at teams that dropped out of our division last season, you've got in League Two this season, you've got Northampton 3rd and Swindon 5th, so they're doing all right. There's a chance they will finish in the top 7 and potentially come straight back up. But the other two, Rochdale and Bristol Rovers, 17th and 18th. And you're not telling me that Bristol Rovers have not got a much more substantial budget than Gillingham FC, and they're still struggling. So it's a competitive league, but for a different reason, isn't it? It's a horrible, nasty league to get out of. And yeah, I can't disagree with what you two have said. I think it'd be very difficult and to come straight back up. And I don't think we'll be able to do it like we did in 2008-9. And again, because you look at the people we signed then, we had the likes of Simeon Jackson up front. We won't go and sign a Simeon Jackson for 100,000. We won't. There's no point pretending otherwise. We're not sitting here to be all doom and gloom and negative about it. It's just being realistic, unfortunately. And realistically, we're getting relegated, and realistically, we won't bounce straight back into League One.
No, I agree, mate. I don't know what more to say to that, really. I mean, we could talk about it all day long, but there's a good chance we're going down. There's a good chance that we won't go back up again. It's a difficult league as it is. We won't be the biggest club in League Two. We won't be spending much money as it stands. The resources will be massively down, partly due to the situation we're in, partly down to Scally, in my opinion. And I could see it leading to it. It will be bottom half League Two at best, in my opinion. But I fear for us doing the South End.
Yeah, I do as well. I know you said the other day, Reece, didn't you? There was some concerning similarities between Paul Scally, you thought, and Mr. Ron Martin, who's in charge of South End United.
Yeah, they both come across as stubborn. They both think that they can do no wrong. What they know is best. They don't care if people seem to care if people stay away. They say don't want you to support anymore. Both have fantasy dream worlds of new stadiums, despite the fact they've got failing football teams. Southend, the year they went down from League One, were relying on a lot of young players to play like we're doing now. And yeah, I do think we are running pretty much along a parallel.
Where did he end up?
Remember him?
Yeah, I just point out, I did say that on the last chat that I thought it was an underwhelming signing. So I think I've been proven right on that one.
That's two for you then, isn't it?
Well, I'd like a question I asked you two, obviously, in terms of in the way what we do with resources. I think that the thing that makes it now, it does appear that Scally has come out and said himself that Evans leaving was his decision. He sacked him. Penny for his thoughts, having turned down an approach from Stevenage, 6 weeks ago?
Yeah, I mean, I tweeted in jest last night, didn't I? And, the little gif that said Paul Scally, after realising that he's sacked a manager that he could have got compensation for 6 weeks back. But apparently some are saying that, and I think Stevenage fans have said as well, that they weren't willing to pay compensation. But again, it's just very Gillingham and very Paul Scally, isn't it, from the outside looking in?
Yeah, because even if we don't take any compensation, we just let him walk away. Well, we're not asking his contract. I bet we are now, and Rayners.
Oh yeah, we're going to have to pay off the last 4 months, I'd imagine. So yeah, so we're out of pocket.
That said, I think I recall when Edinburgh left that when he took the Northampton job, I think it meant he had to pay his compensation back or something along them lines. So I think if he gets another job somewhere else, I think it does mitigate that slightly. But I do agree. Yeah, it is very Gillingham.
If he takes a job within a certain amount of time after being sacked, isn't it? Yeah. So we're relying on him not working for the next few months.
Especially also, as I don't know if you've read the piece on ITV that Scally had basically suggested this was coming for a few weeks, a player for a week. So it seemed the ship would have been unstable when Stevenage were in for him. So why was he so reluctant to, if he thought that the time was going to come for a change there? It just, I don't know, it just doesn't really all add up to me personally.
Guess we'll never know, unfortunately. That's the trouble. That's the beauty, or whatever you want to call it, of this game that we love, is that we all hear tidbits, don't we? But we probably never get the full story.
Well, I've been told that supposedly he did want to go to Stevenage, which I don't know if that's true. But in terms of, if that was the case, it is a bit of a damning indictment on our club, really, isn't it? That a club like them, with potential, with respect to Stevenage, clearly, but a team that's in the bottom half of League Two,
they're fourth bottom. They're fourth bottom.
I think they were second bottom at the time.
Yeah, they're 21st at the moment. Yeah, so either or, it's not like he was going to a team that was in the top 7 and looking to get promoted, is it? It's a team that's battling the same battle in the division below.
Exactly. It's it'd be interesting to hear if he ever comes out with anything. There's a podcast I think today with Peterborough. It'd be interesting. No doubt, I suspect there'll probably be some sort of gagging agreement in place with the club But it'd be interesting to see what he comes out and says. It'd be good to get his side of it. But, you know, it's an interesting one. You know, a lot of people are very happy he's left. I think he was a very good manager for that level. And the fact that he struggled suggests that I can't see many people doing a very good job this season. And as I've said, next season, miracle worker would get us out of League Two, I think, with the resources they're going to end up with.
Let's go back to Steve Evans then briefly, Reece, before we start winding this up. Obviously, we know there's been injury problems. What do you think? Let's talk about the positives first, because I tweeted yesterday evening. There were some real highlights of Steve Evans' reign, and I think we need to touch on that. You think we was 15 games unbeaten, 19-20, weren't we? Had that brilliant run. We had all them cup battles and league battles with Sunderland. We went to the Stadium of Light twice, 3 times, didn't get beat, did we? In the cup once, 2 times in the league over 2 seasons. We went to Fratton Park and didn't get beat twice. We went to Hull and drew, who won the league. The FA Cup, obviously the West Ham game was, as lovely as it was also a stark reminder of how good it used to be and what it should be, and it currently isn't, unfortunately. But, you know, aside from probably the last 3 months, he's probably been top 2 managers that we've had since we certainly came back into this division.
Yeah, I think in the main, I'd give Evans a 7 out of 10 for his reign here. And what I read yesterday shows how stats can sometimes be a little bit misleading, because apparently his win percentage ended up worse than Steve Lovell's. And for me, there is no doubt in mind, for the first 2 seasons, we were an upgrade on what we were under Steve Lovell. No doubt about it. And I also think of Evans that sometimes probably people do overlook is that every season, including his first summer, he had to deal with losing important players. He walks into a team that had just lost Holy and Eves. Mm-hmm. At the time, everyone said we're our 2 best players. Gets us 10th that season. And then he loses Hanlon, who he wanted to keep. He loses Aymer, who he wanted to keep. He wanted to keep Mandron. He wanted to keep Charles Cook. They all chose to leave. He had a rebuilding on there, and then gets us 10th again. Brings in the likes of Dempsey, the likes of Graham, Bonham, Ogilvie on a permanent, Oliver. So, you know, good business. And then obviously the summer just gone. We lose Graham, inevitable, too good for our level. We lose Bonham, Ogilvie. And from there, it's going to be, and then when we under the circumstances of an embargo as well, replacing them players is going to be impossible. Combined with the COVID hit pre-season, combined with the injuries we've had, he's done a poor job this season, but it's not solely his fault at all.
I would just make a quick point on that, though, that every transfer window we've had, I would say that he signed a lot of dross. Evans is another thing I would say. I mean, think back to some of the loan signings he's made. I mean, a lot of it's with his hand tied behind his back, so I can't ever go too much because, you know, ultimately he's not got great resources to work with. But I think you could class it as a positive. In fairness, he realizes when someone's not very good and gets them out the door quickly. But the best thing since sliced bread, they've turned down multiple championship clubs when they've decided to join us, which I think was nonsense most of the time. I could be wrong, but for me, I think he's shipped out a lot of dross that he's brought in. So I think he is partly to blame for this, mate. I mean, I do take your point. Probably better than Lovell over the course of time, even if win percentage says otherwise. I just think for me, the amount of fans we've lost off the back of this, you know, that through him leaving, and then they've stayed away and probably going to stay away for the most part. Was it really worth it? Is probably what I would say. Probably not.
Yeah, I can see both sides of it. Obviously, if you take his win percentage up until probably sort of September, October, when injuries hit, then it's a lot higher than Steve Lovell's was. The home form was generally a lot better under Steve Evans than it was under Lovell. I think we won 5 and 4 home games in consecutive seasons under Lovell. We was a lot stronger this season. Obviously, we know it's been an absolute catastrophe from top to bottom. The other concern we've got as well, Steve Evans has got lots of contacts in the game. Is there now a worry that the likes of Chelsea or Norwich might come calling and say, we don't want Jamie Cumming to stay at your football club for your second half of your season until you sort out a manager, or your new manager's not got enough pedigree? Norwich might want to call back Daniel Adseed. Tom Dixon-Peters, bless him, must be wondering what he's let himself in for after 5 days, because he's turned up. He's been told that he's going to score goals, and then he watches on Saturday as a left back, right back, centre defensive midfielder plays up front in his place, and that was one thing for me Saturday that certainly made me think there's something not quite right here. That was a very left field and a very weird selection, dropping Danny Lloyd and playing a central defensive midfielder out wide and leaving two strikers on the bench and playing a utility player in effect up top, and it clearly didn't work, and that's why we were 3-0 down inside 20 minutes. But if we were to lose Jamie Cumming, Daniel Adseed, Tom Dixon-Peters and Daniel Phillips, if Watford come calling, we really are up the proverbial creek without a paddle.
Yeah, sorry, mate, go
on. I'd said Phillips and obviously the Norwich guy that I weren't there long enough on Saturday to see. I can take or leave. Cumming, I'm worried about. If Chelsea have had eyes on him this season, which I'd have thought they have, he can play at a higher level than us. There's no doubt about that.
Gets enough practice, unfortunately.
They think we're a waste of time. They're right to call him back and bump him up to a top end League One or a bottom half Championship team, and I think he'd be just fine. So he's the one I'd be worried about. And obviously, we don't know the terms of the agreement. If we get rid of 2 loan players, can we bring in 2 more? Or because they're players that have played for us this season, do they count to the total squad? So we can't. It's all up in the air. We don't really know.
It comes back to clarity, doesn't it, from the owner, which we've never had over this whole situation. It took months for us to come out and get any sort of statement regarding the embargo that's not an embargo. And I think most of the fan base are still not 100% clear on what it actually means and what they are in terms of restrictions. Because I was asking questions today. I still don't know. You can read the small print, but it's small print's always confusing, and it's designed to be just that, unfortunately, regarding any product that you have.
Yeah, I think if nothing else, it will mean that we lose the ability to sign half decent players on loan as well. You know, if we brought in someone like a Neil Smith, with respect to the guy again, I'd question what his contacts are like. I'd even question the likes of Mike Flynn's contacts in response to, say, someone like an Evans. So undoubtedly, I think we'll be worse off.
Yeah, certainly. I totally agree in terms of contacts, definitely. There's no chance under any other manager in recent years, maybe Edinburgh, that we'd have been able to even go and speak to Arsenal, let alone entertain the thought that they was going to send 2 to us, or Chelsea or Watford or Bournemouth.
This goes back to the point I made about bringing in a manager that's not linked to the club, though, because a lot of the decent managers with a profile are either decent ex-players that want to start out in football who've got good contacts, or are actually half-decent lower league managers that have probably cut their teeth in the lower leagues of football, but actually played higher level when they were a player. So I would urge him to not hire Lovell for the remainder of the season, or a Smith. But I think that's what we're going to end up with.
Yeah, I certainly think it. I can't get away from Neil Smith until the end of the season, to be honest. I know you're the same, Jack, and I think you are as well, aren't you, Reece? We're all sort of...
Yeah.
It's that feeling that we can see it coming again. And
that apathy again as well, isn't it? Is the apathy. We're sat here with no enthusiasm, just going, yeah. And it's we know what's likely, don't we? It would be, like we've said before, be very symptomatic of Scally and the way he's done things in the past. Credit to him bringing Evans in. I say credit. A lot of people are against it, probably including me. But he had the cojones to go out and get him. But I think he's going to revert back to type.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, because of the fact that being brave and taking himself and the football club out of their comfort zone, and it hasn't worked per se. All right, we improved for 2 seasons, but this year's been a disaster. I think now, like you say, he might just shrink back into his shell and go, well, we took a gamble, it didn't work. We took a gamble with Edinburgh, it didn't work, essentially, even though we finished 9th, which was the highest finish since the Championship days, but we were in the top 6 up until game 44. So in that sense, we should have been in the playoffs. So yeah, there's every chance now that, and he can use COVID as an excuse, and the fact that we've had no income for X amount of months, that we'll just revert back to someone that's going to be shopping at, bottom end of League One, League Two, and National League, unfortunately.
I think if you look at it, mate, as well, over the course of time, when we've had dips, some real blips, I think he reverts to this type to try and get the fans back on side. Like when we brought Hessenthaler in replace of Stimpson, we brought Taylor in replace of Allen.
Gang of 4 after Taylor.
So and after Edinburgh, it was Pennock, so an ex-player. Yeah. So I think he does revert to type to try and get fans back on side rather than actually.
There was even Taylor again, weren't there, in between Pennock And
Exactly.
Pennock and Lovell for like 2 games. That was one of the most horrendous evenings of football I've ever seen. That draw at home to Scunthorpe, I think it was, where we played no strikers.
Exactly, but I think he will revert to type, sadly. So, you know, it'd be interesting to see who he brings in League Two if we get, or next season, whatever it is. You know, next season in League One or League Two, if it is someone like Lovell or Smith, I just don't think they're the long-term answer. I can see some sense in bringing them into the end of the season, but they're not the long-term answer. And but whoever comes in has got a free pass. I think with the fans is the takeaway.
Yeah, definitely.
So the thing is as well, with obviously the conversation, we've not so much on this episode, but what we spoke about the first episode as well. Under the current guys and the current ownership, is there a long-term solution?
I don't think so. No. If he's actually looking to sell the club, as he said, he's kind of alluded to that he's looking for investment. You know, I don't see there being a long-term solution whilst that's happening either. Really, I don't know how he'd sell the club to a prospective manager potentially. You know, I just, like I said earlier, I don't see anyone with any kind of profile wanting to take it, which is concerning in itself as one of the many other concerning things that are going on at the club.
Yeah, I think we covered it all now over 2 parts. Just more immediately, quickly, just for a bit of fun at the end. We found Steve Lovell's last home 11 before he was relieved of his duties in April 2019, and that was a 3-1 win over Plymouth at the Priestfield. And his team that day was Thomas Holy in goal, a back 4 of Luke O'Neill, Max Amar, Connor Ogilvie and Barry Fuller. And we think it was either a 4-3-3 or a 4-4-2 diamond. So it was either Burnham Bingham sitting with Regan, Charles Cook, Dean Parrott and Hanlon playing off of Tom Eves, or potentially Hanlon and Eves next to each other with the other 4 in a diamond. Sticking with the 4-2-3-1 because we played that all season under Steve Evans. So for some continuity, what do we think the team will be Saturday then? So obviously it'll be coming for Holy.
Yeah, I think almost certainly it'll be Oliver. Obviously
Oliver will be the Eves, won't it? Yep. Jackson will be O'Neill.
I think he'd play the new lad up front, the new striker. Got nothing to lose.
You think go with a 4-4-2 then?
Yeah.
So that would be Hanlon. So we go Thomas Dixon Peters. Reece, who replaces Charles Cook? Carriol or Lloyd?
I don't know. Honestly, don't know.
I mean, after Saturday, it's anybody's guess, isn't it? Lloyd. So we're going Lloyd for Regan, Charles Cook. I would get Ollie Lee back in the team. I thought there were just signs before he got left out these last 2 that he was just recovering his form a little bit. So I'd go Ollie Lee in that Dean Parrott role. I'm not sure. We'd probably have to rule Dempsey out, do we? Or do we take a chance and hope that he plays?
O'Keefe maybe then.
Yeah,
O'Keefe's got to be one, hasn't he? Yeah. Phillips is suspended. So let's put Dempsey in. Let's be positive for the last 30 seconds. Jackson will be the right back, I'd imagine.
Yeah, Tutonda probably the left back because there's no one else.
No, Mackenzie. Anyone but Tutonda.
Yeah,
sorry to say it, but
bless him. Let's hope we don't watch this. And Ema and Tucker centre backs.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
not Bennett.
All 3 of them were shocking at the weekend, so it's 2 from 3, isn't it? But I think we've got to start getting back to people in their correct position. So potentially, if Dempsey doesn't play, then Tucker plays centre midfield and Bennett goes next to Amar. Right, gentlemen. Pleasure's probably the wrong word. I appreciate you coming on again. It's been an interesting chat. Gills fans, you know where we are. I'm not going to go through all the spiel because you watch me all the time and having to listen to me and look at my mug. We'll be back later in the week, hopefully, for a match preview. I've got to try and track down a Burton fan for that. I will be back Saturday for a match day live. I'm not sure Jack or Reece will be in the ground.
I can confirm not, mate, unfortunately.
Reece might change his mind.
Very unlikely.
There we go. So that'll be me and Boz and all the other happy souls. But until then, enjoy your week and up the Gills.